Petranech is one of the unsung giants of the sport of open water swimming. A humble man with deep-rooted passion for the sport. He has served the sport extraordinarily well, while always looking out for the best interests of the athletes. He understands the sport from the perspective of a swimmer, a coach, a promoter, an official, and an administrator. He has ably and quietly served as the honorary secretary of the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame for many decades, and has a deep understanding and appreciation for the history of the sport. He worked for years to get the sport into the Olympics and has spent countless hours in the early mornings, late at night, and on the weekends overseeing and administering domestic and international events. He has escorted marathon swimmers, he has prepared budgets and presentations, and he has swum himself across the Catalina Channel and around Manhattan Island in New York City. Contemporary swimmers stand on the broad shoulders of a selfless man and able administrator, Dale Petranech.
Hello, we're here on Open Water Wednesday with Dale Petranech of New Jersey. Hello, Dale.
Hi, Steve. How are you today?
Good, good. Do we find you at home during this Christmas season?
Well, you sure did. I just got back from my little noonday swim.
Oh, good, good. In the open water or pool?
The pool.
Okay.
It's about I'd say 25 degrees Fahrenheit outside, so that would make the outdoor swimming a little bit rough this time of year.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Dale, you've been involved in open water swimming since the dawn of Olympic time. Can you explain what you've been doing in the sport all these years?
Well, probably the easiest way to do it would be just start out to see how I got involved with the sport and just carry it on there, so I'll just ramble on for a bit. It started out that I started swimming, going over to the local YMCA and swimming a couple laps every noon just for general conditioning. And they said, well, you ought to get involved with the Masters program, which I did, and I did swim a couple Masters races. And then they were having the national AAU convention there in Washington, D.C., so I said, well, I'll go down and see what that's all about. One of the meetings that they were having was on the subject of long-distance swimming. I've never even heard of it or saw of it, so I walked into the meeting and started asking so many questions about it and trying to figure out what it was all about that they thought I had a real interest in it, and I was elected the national vice chairman of the committee of an event that I've never seen.
Okay.
So,
what year was this?
Then on the way out of the meeting, Glenn Hummer, who was an Olympic coach and not really an Olympic coach, an Olympic developed several Olympic swimmers, says, I've been trying to get rid of this job for the last 20 years. I'm glad to see we got an assistant. I just resigned, so I became the national chairman of the under the AAU of open water, long distance swimming event that I've never seen. So it was just a learning process from there, trying to find out what was happening, how it was happening. At that time, there were only one event, the national championship, which was a 3-mile cable swim for women and a 4-mile for men. And we just slowly started getting involved in other aspects of it and trying to add events and try to do other things. About that time, the AAU asked me, he said, you got about $300 in your kitty for expenses here, and we just received a request from Penny Dean and Mary Beth Copel, who are swimming a race over in Lake Windermere, and they'd like to try to get a little support from us. How do you feel about it? I said, yeah, why not? So we gave both Penny and Mary Beth, I think, $100 toward their expenses for Lake Windermere International. So that started out our international program as such, and we decided, well, we ought to try to hold an international race. So we went together and we finally decided with Penny that we would reorganize the old Wrigley swim across the Catalina Channel, which we did, and we had probably five or six countries in it: Great Britain, Egypt, United States, Czech Republic. I think we're about the main countries there. Australia was kind of interesting because we wanted to Shelley Taylor-Smith was attending college in the States at the time, but the Australian governing body said, no, we don't recognize open water swimming, and so we're not going to authorize her to swim in that particular race. So she was unable to swim, and then a couple years later, well, they did start recognizing it, and she became the first world champion at 25 kilometers in the event that was held over in Australia. Following that event, I got together with some of the people that were there, which were the Roger and Val Parsons, Yaroslav Novak from Czechoslovakia, and we decided we really ought to try to get into the Olympics. And our idea at the time was to try to form our own open water international committee, and then apply to the Olympic Committee for admission into the Olympics. Well, talked to Bob Helmick about it, who was then the president of the U.S. Olympic Committee, and the International Olympic Committee also, I think. And he said, no, the only way that you can do it is to go through your national federation, and they're the only ones that FINA will recognize, and FINA will be making recommendations to the body. So that's the way we proceeded. We got together and wrote up a couple papers saying we really ought to be doing something internationally. Our major problem at the time was that we were all amateurs, and the bulk of the competition of any other event was the professionals, because they did have their own professional circuit dating back to the 1920s, I think it was, or 1930s anyway. And so we tried to maintain that we were going to be an amateur type of activity, which created some problems within the existing national governing bodies. But anyway, we just eventually sorted all that out, and they had appointed a committee to study open water swimming and see what we can do as far as trying to become a FINA sport, which they did. And that committee consisted of, well, who was it? It was Roger Parsons, Dennis, no, that was another one. Sabre Sabre from Egypt, Novaks from Czechoslovakia, myself, and Ricards from Australia. So they formed, and we eventually got to be, and one thing led to another. They eventually became a subcommittee of the Technical Swimming Committee, and then eventually became an own committee within FINA, the Technical Open Water Swimming Committee. So that's about how we got to the point of hosting world championships and events under the auspices of the of FINA, and become world championship event.
Just for our listeners, you actually skipped over, or you summarized about 20 to 30 years of open water swimming history. And I just want to put a historical perspective on this. And I'm going to suggest some years, and you correct me. When you were walking out of that infamous meeting with Glenn Hummer, where he handed over the keys to the open water swimming kingdom to you, was that about the mid-70s?
I think it was about 77, 78, or 79.
Okay. And
it was about the same year that Penny Dean set the record for the both the Windermere swim. She finished second in that one. Mary Beth beat her, and that was the same year that she set the record for the English Channel that held up for 20 years for both men and women.
Okay, so that would have been 1978.
Right.
And then you also mentioned that you, with United States Swimming, organized an international race across the Catalina